let's just stick with spoofing for a second. I'm wondering if this is a spoof because here you can hear what Bart Chilton said. The land of Arcadia. That's why I appreciate you coming on here each month, because I think people are looking for answers to things like this. And Andrew, actually, I have a question on something you said in there. You talked a bit about correlations, and certainly something that I know is on people's minds, especially because you've seen this up close. Again, I get it that gold and silver would be correlated. That makes sense to me, although I also noticed that a large portion of the investment world seems to find a big difference between the two. So the fact that, again, we always see these in lockstep. Is there also perhaps a correlation between that and the JP Morgan, a $920 million fine? Now, Andrew, believe it or not, we have some critics out there. I know you're going to be shocked. And I've had a couple people, even since this came out, saying, oh, well, that shows they were spoofing, not that they were suppressing the price. You know, I think we in the Big Silver Short book and elsewhere, your podcast, the appearances you've had on my show, I think we've laid out a lot of evidence that would discredit that. But I'm going to play something that Bart said. I may have played it for you before. I know some people have heard it before. Hopefully you can bear with me. I think it'll be great to get your comment because, again, let's just stick with spoofing for a second. I'm wondering if this is a spoof because here you can hear what Bart Chilton said. And actually, this one is so special. Look at what happens right here at the $25 level where it's kind of hovering around right before it drops. So imagine when I asked Bart the question, I say $20 because it was a couple of years ago. But just imagine 25 instead of 20. And then, Andrew, perhaps you can give us your thought on. Again, I appreciate you mentioning the spoofing. Curious because my understanding of how some of the manipulation has occurred is that, you know, if silver is trading $20.05, there's a lot of stop orders placed around the $20 handle. So often if the price can get pushed a little bit, then you get a lot of those high frequency algorithms kicking in, and then you'll see a drop with many feeling that people kind of nudging a little are then able to buy lower. Does that sound like a reasonably accurate portrayal to put it in perspective to folks, or would you phrase it differently?
Well, it's a good portrayal, but it's a very good portrayal.
And then Andrew Etalks gives some mechanics for about 3 minutes before he concludes with
in nanoseconds. So the difference in your description is that today, when a market moves because of a spoof, it can move a lot more.
Andrew, is this a spoof?
You know what? Why would it not be? Now, the thing is that, I mean, it's just one tool in the toolbox. Obviously, you know, rigging a price to a certain price level requires an ignition point. And you can't create an ignition point without a spoof. And however, you can call it whatever you want, but it is a spoof. And so basically, yes. So we had banks doing this for their own book. I think what we're now seeing, Chris, is it may even be the same bank, because that same bank is an agent for the Fed and acts as a primary dealer for the Fed, and the Fed can trade in the market and do what it wants, when it wants, with no accountability. So yes, I think that it has not stopped. I think what you've just illustrated, what else can it be? Of course it is. And because it comes from no news, it comes at a point where there's an inflection point. It comes when a little bit of gaming, i.e. throwing a few bids in and out and playing that spoofing game, can confuse this 99% algo-driven market, and it's exactly what we're talking about here. Whereas before it was an individual bank profiting greatly, and they got caught. They got JP Morgan being fined, Deutsche Bank being fined. I mean, we've seen Scotiabank being fined. I mean, we've seen there's multiple more people's being fined, and they're saying, yeah, well, it's just spoofing. Spoofing is just a tool to get to achieve an objective. Obviously, you don't spoof to make a tick either side. And what we're seeing now, whereas before we saw an individual bank doing it, now we're seeing officials do it. And I think what you're doing is, because it's so easy to, because it's such a 99% algo-driven market, just as we described, all you need is control of an HFT, something that is big enough, where you're powerful enough, you're not accountable to anyone. You can then steer, lead them these algos by the nose, create correlations that shouldn't exist, and literally then you can pull a spoof and get them to do exactly what you want, which is exactly what we've seen today. And you look at that chart right now, that is 100% algo driven, but it's not neutral algos. This is neutral algos that have been dragged by the nose to do something in the form of a spoof to instigate it. So I hope that answers the question.
So that is just a short excerpt of this month's interview with Andrew Maguire. It was about an hour in total, so it'll be broken into 2 parts, which will be played tonight and tomorrow. Feel free to send this to your local CFTC representative, government official. Ask them if they can explain it, if you can get a comment from the Department of Justice. I would sure love to know. I know there's a lot of other people wondering the same thing. And in either case, to see the rest of the interview, if you like this one, you're going to want to make sure you saw the rest, because Andrew was on his game today. And just hit that subscription button down there and the notification bell, which is somewhere down there as well. And then you can be posted as soon as it is coming your way.